Welcome back to Chief Studios. My name is Taylor Bell. Let's hit that intro.
Yeah. Woo.
I just need my
Yeah.
space right now.
Fresh off the G5 jet, I'm on my way to a brand new kit.
All right. And as we roll into this bye week for week 10 in the NFL, Chiefs, like I said, have a bye. So it gives us a little extra time to see what's going on in the rest of the NFL. Now, if you watched last night's game, more power to you. My God, it was a struggle. The game was not interesting, to say the least. Now, I take that back. It was relatively close towards the end. Got a little tight, but just not much offensively. The Chicago Bears beat the Carolina Panthers 16-13. Now, real quick before we get into the news of the game, the NFL's got to do something with these Thursday night games. Amazon has these, I think, in combination with the NFL Network, but Amazon paid an ungodly amount of money for their exclusivity for those Thursday night games, and it's been the same story. I think once Amazon got involved, everybody was hoping that these Thursday night games would at least see some more interesting games, some more exciting teams, right? Teams that are doing good, that at least have a winning record. Because before I believe, 2 years ago, before Amazon picked this up, it was the same thing. Two struggling teams below 500, not much going on offensively. I can't think of one Thursday night game where it came down to the wire, which this one did to a certain extent, but I'm talking about high offense on both ends, exciting play, explosive offensive plays, and it came down to like a last second field goal or overtime or something exciting. They got to figure something out, because going into this year, you can't tell me that when creating the schedule, the NFL came came to Amazon and was like, well, here's the games that we're gonna, basically put on for you. I mean, really, not much excitement with these. And you never know what's going to happen, right, with each team as far as going into the next season, how good they're going to be. Are there going to be injuries? Is the quarterback going to be out? What's going on, right? You just don't know. However, you do have a decent idea of, is there much buzz around each team, right? With these two teams, there was not much buzz coming into the year. At least if you choose the Chiefs, right? You got Mahomes, you got Kansas City, you choose the 49ers. You know you're going to have a great team rolling in on that Thursday night. You have the Cowboys, right? A big market. I know the Giants aren't doing good this year, but you do get a big market city in New York. Just something. Now you do get a big market in the Bears, but in Chicago. But rolling into this week, rolling into the season, we knew these two teams are not going to be good. And speaking of being not good, Bryce Young, not looking good for the Carolina Panthers. The number one overall pick, and I'm assuming that's why they probably chose the Panthers for this Thursday night game. Say, hey, you're going to have the number one pick. Like I said, you don't know how he's going to be playing, but you do get the buzz around the number one pick, seeing how he looks in prime time on a Thursday night. And God, it was ugly. He is really, really struggling. That whole team is struggling. You got a couple pieces around him, but not much at all. And every week that goes on, every week that the Texans and CJ Stroud have a good outing, it sure looks like this was the wrong pick. Now, getting into the pick, I don't know if there's a lot of head scratchers here, because when you get a pick wrong like this, and I'm not saying he's, going to be trash. It's just right now it looks like it's just not all there. It just does not have it together. You just don't know which one of these guys are going to be good, right? I mean, look at Mahomes, right? Number 10. And you got a lot of these star quarterbacks all over the league. Majority of them did not go number one. And it's basically a crapshoot. But it is a head scratcher going into this one. I shouldn't say head scratcher. That's a little much, right? He was the quarterback at Alabama, had a really, really good college career. But the word head scratcher jumped out first because when you think of a prototypical NFL quarterback, you don't think 5'10", 175 pounds, right? That's even a little smaller than me as an NFL quarterback, and that's just not going to cut it. Those are Bryce Young stats. 5'10", 175 pounds. CJ Stroud, much bigger, can see over the line. His comp, not CJ Stroud, but Bryce Young, his comp was Russell Wilson coming out of college. But it's hard to compare a undersized quarterback. Size matters in the NFL. It matters. And comparing somebody to an outlier like Russell Wilson, which he was compared to Russell Wilson is an outlier. He's a phenomenal athlete, but he is an outlier, right? Meaning like it doesn't happen that often that somebody that small at that position can play so well. Basically like a Doug Flutie, right? Doug Flutie's famous for saying that or mentioning that he can't even see over the offensive line because most of those guys are 6'5", 6'7", and you got 5 of them in front of you. So how are you going to see your wide receivers? Now, his bad and or poor performance is matched with poor play calling, poor play design, poor scheming across the field. It's a collectively it's just not a good situation there in Carolina. Going into, hang on, let me share something real quick. Let's see. So going into the draft, I found out a very interesting story. Going into the draft, Bryce Young right here, the Panthers quarterback. Look at his stats right here. 5'10", 205. Now, an NFL scout, John Middlecoff, mentioned on his podcast last night, that he has a lot of connections in and around the NFL that are still in the scouting departments. He said he was on the phone last night with a current scout that is in the NFL. He didn't say what team, but he was in the at the combine for these quarterbacks before this draft last year. He said when the quarterbacks went to get measured, right, height and weight, and they measure your width and stuff like that, your arm length, your hand size. He said Bryce Young, when he went to get his height and weight measured, that he sort of waddled up to the height machine and I think the weight machine are right next to each other. But anyways, he waddled on to the weight machine. He got weighed and then he scurried out. But he said was walking funny. Now, he added on weight. How? They did not say. So they either put Ziploc bags full of sand in his pockets. They probably had him drink a gallon of water, which weighs 7 pounds. Before that, he probably, there's certain there you can put weight in your shoes, although I think they do them with socks, weigh them with socks, but basically have you in shorts and socks with no shirt. But they added on weight somehow, some way. The scout that told John Middlecoff last night says he thought he added 10 to 15 pounds extra when he was weighed at that moment. Now, why would they do that? Well, actually, that would put him at like 175 or 180. 5'10", 180. Now, why would they add on weight? Because everybody knows in the NFL that 5'10", 205, which is what his combine weight is small to begin with. So the Bryce Young team wanted him to go number one and made it look better that he weighs a little more. He's got more buff, more muscles than a scrawny 180. 5'10", 180 doesn't look good for an NFL quarterback as far as stat wise, and that number right there doesn't. So anything less than that would look worse. So they were boostering those numbers to try to get him to look better as far as the weight and buff and strong is concerned. Russell Wilson, I think, is 5'10", 210 or 215, and that was his comp. So, but let's look at his stats, right? So far, regular season, he has a 62% completion percentage, just over 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 75.9. So just under about 76 is the quarterback rating. Anything over 100 is considered really good, right? So it looks like on the year, he's only had really one good game. And if you dive into those stats right here, the stats didn't even blow you away, right? Because look, his QB rating of 103, the only game over 100. He had no interceptions, only had one touchdown, 235 yards, and a 71% completion percentage versus the Texans on October 29th, just a few weeks ago. But all of his other ones, I mean, look, I believe this was his first game, a quarterback rating of 48. I'll give him a pass on that. It was his very first game. I'm sure he had a ton of nerves. But look, going everything past that, 87. But look at these stats. Nothing really blows you away. I mean, 153, 204, 247, 217, 173, 185 yards. And has only got a handful of touchdowns. And to go along with a handful of interceptions. They're in shambles right now. It does not look good as far as the future, because not only did they lose to Chicago last night, but Chicago owns one of their draft picks from Carolina, trading up to secure the Bryce Young pick. So the worse their record is, the Carolina Panthers record is, the better the draft pick the Chicago Bears will be. So it was kind of like a double whammy last night. They not only lost, but they also get their opponent a better draft pick in front of them. So CJ Stroud looks like by far and away the better pick. I don't know if there's a better way to evaluate these quarterbacks. It's just a crapshoot, right? You're only going to get one quarterback a draft, or maybe even one quarterback every 2 years. That makes a real difference in the league. Going into the Panthers, as far as a franchise, they've fired. Of course, they were just purchased the Tepper family, I believe a couple years ago. And they've gone through a number of head coaches as well in the last few years, seemingly firing head coaches every 1 or 2 years, and which can do damage to a young quarterback like Bryce Young. It looks like they're going to fire Frank Reich at the end of the year, bring in a whole new system, a whole new staff, which makes it even more difficult on the quarterback. But let's look at the Panthers. You know what? Let me look at CJ Stroud real quick and let you know why he is looks like the better pick. CJ Stroud, look at this. Well, it doesn't show his weight. He's 6'3". I believe he's around 215. Much bigger a build. And then look at his stats thus far. 62% completion, which is pretty good. The baseline is like 62% to be considered good. So he's definitely good on the completion percentage. Over 2,200 yards, 14 TDs, 1 interception, with a quarterback rating of 102. So that's this regular season thus far. Those are his totals, and then his quarterback rating, an average of all of his games. So he's having a very good year. I believe he locked up the rookie of the year with this game last week. 470 passing yards, 5 TDs, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 147. I believe that's a perfect quarterback rating of 147. So just have an absolute standout year. Quarterback from Ohio State University. And they seemingly look like they are on the right road as far as once you get the quarterback position right, everything else falls into place. Now, you have to be good, continue to make good draft picks, continue to have the right coach. the right offensive system in place. But quarterback is the centerpiece of the franchise. You get that, and you build everything else around it. So until you get that piece, you're not considered a a franchise that actually has a chance to do anything. So Texans are on their way. Panthers are not. Let's look at their rest of the season here for the Panthers. Let's see. Here are the games. Let's see what else they got. It does not look like a good rest of the year. So they lost. Where are we at? Right here. Let me show the screen. So this was last night. You got against the Cowboys. That'd be lost. Titans, Bucks again, Saints, Falcons, Packers, Jags, and Bucks. So look, a chance to win a few more games, but does not look good the way things are rolling. So I see maybe 1 or 2 wins out of the last 8. So that puts them at a record of what? Let's see. Where are the Panthers? Yikes. So that's going to put them at like 2-16. So not good if you're a Panthers fan. Sorry. Okay. So that'll do it for the review of last night's game. Pretty boring. Kind of wanted to dive into the mess that is the Carolina Panthers and why it's a mess, but I do appreciate the time. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Chiefs Studios. My name is Taylor Bell, and Fred Davis has got a show coming up shortly. Don't miss it. Peace out.